Hello my dear viewers. In this video, we are explaining briefly about Vachana Movement, its key aspects and its various phases. Let us start. First of all, introduction. The Vachana Movement was a powerful social, religious and literary revolution that begins in 12th century Karnataka, South India. It was centered around simple, direct spiritual expressions and fierce critiques of caste, ritualism, and social injustice. Instead of complex Sanskrit scriptures or rituals performed by the priests, the leaders of this movement spoke to the common people in Kannada, which is one of the Indian classical language, through the short free verse composition called Vachanas, which also means the words or sayings. At its heart, the movement sought to build a society based on equality, devotion or bhakti and inner purity, but not on external markers like birth, wealth or religious rituals. What are Vachanas? First point is, Vachanas are a short and powerful sayings which are usually just a few lines. Second one, poetic, rhythmic and deeply emotional. Third one is spiritual, philosophical and social at the same time. And fourth one is, each Vachanas often ends with a reference to the personal deity of the Vachanakara, also known as Ankitanama or poet's pen name. Example, Kudala Sangama Deva, Channa Mallikarjuna, Guheshwara, etc. And fifth point is, Vachanas covers a wide range of topics including devotion, ethics, social issues, and the nature of the divine and the divinity. Importance of the Vachana movement. First point is, it challenged the Brahmanical domination and ritualistic Hinduism. Second one is, it gave a voice to the women, the poor, and the marginalized communities. Third one, it reshapes the Kannada literature, bringing the fresh and a natural style. Fourth one is, it inspired later Bhakti movements across India like those of Kabir and Tukaram. Though the Vachana movement faced violent backlash and the political upheavals, its ideas survived and flourished. Today, the Vachanas remains the living traditions among the followers of the Veerashaivism and continues to inspire the poets, reformers and the thinkers across the India. History and geography of the 12th century Karnataka. To understand the roots of the Vachana movement, we must first place it in the context of 12th century Karnataka, the region marked by cultural explorations and the political transitions. The movement took shape primarily in area surrounding the Kalyana, today's Basava Kalyana, a city that serves as the capital of the Kalyani Chalukyas. The Chalukyas of Kalyana ruled much of the Deccan India from 10th to 12th centuries Christ era. Their patronage of art and literature and the temple building fostered an atmosphere of intellectual inquiry. But they also upheld rigid social hierarchies dominated by Brahmanical orthodoxy. The Karnataka at this time was a land of transition. On one hand, it was firmly embedded in Sanskrit cosmopolis with the Brahmins holding significant powers in temples, education and governance. On the other hand, local traditions, folk practices and the tribal belief systems continued to thrive in rural areas. This duality created fertile ground for new voices and the spiritual movements that give rise to Vachana movement. The Vachana movement emerged precisely at this crossroad, drawing from both mainstream Hindu ideas and the marginal traditions, especially the Shaiva sectors. Vachana movement. The Vachana movement emerged as a powerful spiritual and social revolution in 12th century Karnataka. It was not merely a literary or a religious movement, but sweeping reform that challenged the entrenched hierarchies of caste, gender, and the ritualism. Anchored in the vernacular Kannada language, the movement's key figures, and the most notably Sri Basavanna, Allama Prabhu, Akka Mahadevi, and others composed short, powerful verses which are known as vachanas or sayings that broke away from Sanskritic orthodoxy and priestly mediation. These verses were written not to adorn a royal court but to stir the conscience of the everyday people. The Vachana movement is bound with its deeply democratic and devotional character. It represents one of the earliest sustained expressions of bhakti or devotion in South India that placed spiritual liberation within reach of all, regardless of caste, creed, or gender. In doing so, it prefigured many later movements across the subcontinent, yet unlike those later movements, it developed the remarkably coherent social religious philosophy and an institutional framework, which is the Anubhava Mantapa, the world's first parliament or council which gave the Vachanakaras a forum for lived discourse on ethics, metaphysics, and the governance. The Vachana movement was a significant socio-religious and the literary movement that was spearheaded by Sri Basavanna and the other prominent figures known as Sharanas, which means devotees to the Lord Shiva. Phases of Vachana movement. There are 3 phases of Vachana movement. First one is early Vachana movement. This was before the 12th century Vachana movement, which is led by Jedara Dasimaya, who was the first Vachanakara of the Vachana literature or the Vachana poet of the Vachana literature. The prominent Vachanakaras of this period, first one Jedara Dasimaya, 10th and 11th century, often considered the Adya Vachanakara, the first Vachanakara, and his Ankitanama, which means pen name, was Ramanatha. He lived during the reign of the Western Chalukyas and is credited with laying the foundations for Vachana poetry with his simple yet profound expressions. Second Vachanakara of this time, Madharachanaya, 11th century, a cobbler saint who is the devotee of Shiva, who lived during the Western Chalukya period. Some researchers considered him the father of the Vachana poetry. Third one is Dohara Kakkaya, 11th and 12th century, another early Vachanakara whose contributions predate the peak of the movement under Basavanna. His Ankitanama was Abhinava Mallikarjuna. Second phase of the Vachana movement is middle phase Vachana movement. This was 12th century Vachana movement, which is led by the Lord Basavanna. The prominent Vachanakaras. First one, Basavanna, lived between the period 1131 to 1167, Christi era. The central figure and the driving force behind the Vachana movement, his Ankitanama was Kudala Sangamadeva. He was statesman, social reformer, and the poet who organized the Anubhava Mantapa, which is the hall of spiritual experience. Second Vachanakara, Allama Prabhu, 12th century, a highly revered mystic and philosopher whose vachanas are known for their profound spiritual insights and the complex imagery. His Ankitanama was Guheshwara. He presided over the Anubhava Mantapa. He is the chairperson of the Anubhava Mantapa. Third Vachanakarthi, Akka Mahadevi, 1130 to 1160, Christi era, a prominent woman saint and the poet known for her intense devotion and the radical renunciation. Her Ankitanama was Channa Mallikarjuna. And the fourth Vachanakara, Channa Basavanna, 12th century. He was the nephew of the Basavanna, a significant Vachanakara and the scholar of the movement's philosophy. His Ankitanama was Kudala Channa Sangaya. And the fifth one is Siddharama, 12th century, a social reformer and the Vachanakara from Solapura. His Ankitanama was Kapila Siddha Mallikarjuna. He is also known as Siddheshwara. 6th Vachanakara, Ambigara Chaudaya, 12th century, a boatman by profession. His Vachanas are known for their directness and social commentary. His Ankitanama was Ambigara Chaudaya. And the 7th Vachanakara, Madivala Machaya, 12th century, the washerman whose Vachanas emphasize the dignity of labor, and his Ankitanama was Kalidevara Deva. And the 8th Vachanakarti, Gangambika, she was wife of Lord Basavanna. Her Ankitanama was Ganga Priya Kudala Sangama Deva. 9th Vachanakarti, Neelambike, who was also known as Neelalochane. She was also wife of Basavanna. Her Ankitanama was Sangaya. And the numerous other women's Vachanakartis like Kadirakayakada Kalave, Sankave, Rechave, Lingamma, etc., who contributed significantly to the Vachana literature, and their Vachanas often reflect their experience as a woman in a patriarchal society and their spiritual journeys. Vachanakarti Muktayakka, who is also known as sister of Akka Mahadevi, her Ankitanama was Ajaganna. Third phase of the Vachana movement, later Vachana movement. This was the after the 12th century Vachana movement, which is led by the Lord Channabaswanna and others. The prominent Vachanakaras, first one, Tontada Siddhalingayati, a significant figure in later development of Vachana movement, Vachana literature. And the second Vachanakara, Kadakola Madivalappa, known for his Swaravachanas, which introduce a new dimension to the genre. Third one is Kuduluru Basavalinga Sharana, another notable later mystic who contributed to Vachana tradition. Fourth one is Muppina Shadakshari, developed mystical ideas on Angalinga oneness. And the fifth Vachanakara, Kondaguli K.C. Raja, known for subtle philosophical Vachanas. Next main point is key aspects of the Vachana movement. First one, social equality. The movement strongly opposed the rigid caste system and advocated for the equality of all the individuals, regardless of their birth and social status. They championed the cause of the downtrodden and the untouchables, giving them a voice and a sense of dignity. Second one is rejection of rituals and superstitions. The Sharanas, who are also known as devotees of Shiva, criticized meaningless rituals, blind beliefs, and the dominance of the priest. They emphasized a direct and personal relationship with the divine. Third point is work is worship. The movement promoted the dignity of labor, asserted that all professions are sacred if performed with the sincerity and dedication. Fourth point is equal distribution, which means dasoha. They advocated for the principle of sharing the fruits of one's labor with the community. Fifth main point is inner spirituality. The focus was on inner spiritual growth and experiencing the divine within oneself rather than relying on external practices. Sixth point, one God. They preached the concept of one universal God, which is Lord Shiva. Seventh point is use of vernacular language. The Sharanas communicated their teachings in Kannada language, the language of the common people, instead of Sanskrit, which was understood only by the elites. This made their ideas accessible to all sections of the society. Eighth one, Vachana literature. The Vachana movement produced a unique and influential form of Kannada literature called Vachana Sahitya, or the literature of Vachanas. Vachanas literally means sayings or utterance. They are short and prose poem that expresses the Sharana's spiritual experiences, social observations, and the philosophical insights in the simple and direct style. And the ninth point is impact on society. First one, social reform. The Vachana movement challenged the existing social hierarchies and contributed significantly to the social reform by advocating for equality and the upliftment of marginalized communities. The movement actively challenged the caste system, gender discrimination, and superstitious beliefs prevalent in society. Second one, religious reform. If offered a more personal and direct path to spirituality, moving away from ritualistic practices and the authority of the priests, this led to the formation of the Lingayata faith. While advocating for social change, the movement also emphasized the personal spiritual experiences and the importance of the individual devotion to Shiva. Third point is literary revolution. The Vachana literature created a new generation in Kannada language characterized by its simplicity, accessibility, and the focus on the real life experiences. It enriched Kannada language literature and made it more democratic. Fourth subpoint is empowerment of women. The movement provided the platform for women to express their spiritual and social views. Over 30 women Vachanakaras contributed significantly to the Vachana literature. Fifth subpoint is considered as a foundation of Lingayatism. The Vachana movement is considered the foundation of Lingayatism, a significant religious tradition in Karnataka that continues to uphold many of the movement's principles. In essence, the Vachana movement was a revolutionary period in Karnataka history that left lasting impact on its social, religious, and literary landscape by promoting equality, rational thinking, and the direct path to the spiritual realization through powerful and accessible poetry. The Vachanas are Kannada poetic verses which advocated the social justice, equalities, and the spiritual experiences. The movement challenged the rigid caste system, rituals, and the dogmatism of the time, promoting a more egalitarian society where all were valued and could express their spiritual beliefs. Sixth subpoint is promoted equality and justice. These vachanas emphasized the inherent equality of all individuals regardless of caste and social standings. Seventh subpoint is Anubhava Mantapa. The movement established the Anubhava Mantapa, a gathering place where Sharanas, which means followers of the movement from all the caste backgrounds, could come together to discuss their beliefs and experiences. Kalyana, now Basava Kalyana, was chosen as the site for the Anubhava Mantapa. Salient features of Anubhava Mantapa. First one, open to all regardless of caste, gender, or occupation. Second one, governed by discussion and the dialogue, not by rituals. Third one, focused on spiritual experience expressed in simple, direct language. Fourth one, a space where Vachanas' short pre-verse composition were shared, discussed, and refined. And the fifth point is, the Basavanna was the chief organizer. Many others contributed to this. Sixth point, Allama Prabhu, the chief spiritual guide, who is also known as Pradhana Guru, also the chairperson of the Anubhava Mantapa, who is known for his deeply mystical and philosophical vachanas, His poems or vachanas often move beyond conventional dualism. And the seventh point, Akka Mahadevi, the powerful female mystic and poet who renounced worldly life at the young age and become a beacon of feminine spiritual energy. Daily routine at Anubhav Mantapa. Historical records and vachanas suggest that daily activities at the Anubhav Mantapa included the followings: group discussions on philosophical questions, recitation and analysis of newly composed vachanas, debates on the nature of devotion or bhakti, and knowledge or jnana, and work or kayaka. Discussions on practical matters like marriage, work, charity, and ethics. Guidance sessions led by senior Sharanas for young aspirants. There was no ritualistic worship, no hierarchical seatings, no prescribed dress codes, just the sincere thirst for truth and the sharing of inner experiences. Kalyana, from utopia to collapse. For a time, a city of Kalyana shone like a beacon of spiritual and social possibilities under the stewardship of Basavanna and the patronage of King Bijala II. It appears as if the ideas of Vachana movement might actually reconfigure the very structure of society. The Anubhav Mantapa flourished and diverse communities of Shivasharanas, spiritual seekers from across castes, occupations, and genders lived, debated, and composed in harmony. But Kalyana's utopia was also fragile. The radical social experiments taking place under Basavanna's leadership increasingly threatened the power of entrenched interests, especially the Brahmanical priesthood and conservative elites. The idea of casteless society where spiritual authority did not flow from lineage or Sanskrit learning was intolerable to many in the upper classes. Tensions escalated rapidly, and the breaking point came when a Brahmin girl and the boy, both Shivasharanas, were married under the ideas of equality professed by the movement. The reaction was swift and brutal. The conservative backlash pressured King Bijala to act. Several Shivasharanas were persecuted, some executed, and spiritual communities fractured. Basavanna, devastated by the collapse of the vision he had so patiently built, resigned his post and retreated. Some says to Kudala Sangama, where he spent his last days in meditation and poetry. Not long after, King Bijala himself was assassinated, and the political chaos that followed and scattered the Shivasharana's community. The Anubhav Mantapa ceased to function. The Vachana movement in its original institutional form had collapsed, and yet this was not the end. Though the movement lost its political base and the central leadership, its spiritual fire burned on. Thousands of vachanas had already been composed and preserved through the oral transmission. The ideas seeded in Kalyana would take root elsewhere, in villages, in the hearts, in rebels, mystics who would carry forward the flame. The fall of Kalyana but developed the Lingayatism. Finally, the conclusion. The Vachana literature encompasses the contribution of over 200 Vachanakaras, including more than 30 women, while definitive, precisely time-ordered list of all Vachanakaras with exact date of their Vachana composition are challenging to compile due to the historical nature of the moment and the way of literature was preserved. We can establish the general timeline based on the prominent figures and their period of activity within 12th century. The Vachana movement was one of the most profound spiritual, social and literary revolutions in Indian history. It defied rigid caste hierarchies, religious orthodoxy, gender inequality, and empty ritualism by centering on the direct personal experience, which is also known as Anubhava of the divine. The Vachanas are short saying which making spirituality accessible to all. Thank you.